Hello, Awana friends. It's Mr. Chris, and I am here tonight to go over lesson 3.2. Jesus is fully man. So to jump in, let's do a little introductory exercise. So here you see person 1 and person 2. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what those people are, but I have shown you pictures of equipment they use to do their job. So if you look at person 1, you can see all the different types of equipment and things person 1 might have when doing their job. And over there you see all the different types of things person 2 would have when they're doing their job. So take a minute and look. I'm sure you have some guesses as to what each person does. If you need more time, pause the video. But person 1 is a firefighter. Person 2 is an auto mechanic. So let me ask you a couple questions. If your car was making funny noises and it stopped working, do you think you should take it to person 1 or person 2? Obviously, you should take it to a mechanic. Likewise, if you smelled smoke in the middle of the night and you thought there might be a fire, are you going to dial up the fire department or are you going to dial up your mechanic? In that situation, the smart move would be to obviously dial up the fire department and get them to come and put out the fire. So just because you're good at one role doesn't mean you're necessarily a good fit for another role. And in this case, each of these people has a thing that they're better suited for. So sometimes in life, people are able to fulfill one role but not necessarily fulfill a different role. Now today we're going to learn about a person who was able to fulfill two different roles, the two most important roles for us, fully God and fully man, and that was Jesus. So let's jump into our lesson. So like I just said, Jesus is both fully human, but at the same time, both fully God, right? He's like the firefighting mechanic, if you will, from our first lesson. He can put out fires and fix your car, right? No one created Jesus. He's God. No one created God. No one created Jesus. He is God. Now, he made a choice, though. He chose to become human because he loved us. But when he made that choice to become human, it's very important to know he did not stop becoming God just because he became human. He was both fully God and fully human at the same time. Like, let's say you are a firefighter and you learn how to become a mechanic. Just because you learned how to become a mechanic doesn't mean you stop becoming and knowing how to be a firefighter. And that's how it was with God, right? With Jesus, choosing to be human did not stop the fact that he was God. Very important to understand. So while Jesus lived on earth, he experienced all the same things we do. He felt pain, emotions, right? He was happy, he was sad, he was excited. I'm sure he was even nervous or scared sometimes, right? Those are all types of things we deal with every single day, all the time. He faced struggles, but one of the big differences, not the only, but the biggest difference is between you and me, while Jesus faced all the same stuff, struggles, emotions, and things we do, he was perfect and never sinned. We cannot claim that for ourselves. And that was very important because that led to what he did on the cross. Had he sinned, it was not going to work out, which would have been very bad for us. So because of that love, again, I talked about him going to the cross, he chose to limit his powers as God so he could become human and take that punishment, right? If he didn't come down and complete that sacrifice for our sin, we'd have to own the punishment for our own sin, which is death. Not a good choice for us. We'd spend eternity in hell. But the good news is he did come down. He did live a perfect life. Even though he experienced all the same hardships we do, he was able to overcome all of those things, never sinning, and able to be a perfect sacrifice for us. So we can feel comfort knowing that Jesus went through struggles like ours, and when we ask for help, he knows what you're going through. He's experienced it himself. So today's memory verse is from the book of John, the first chapter, verse 14. So John 1:14. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So a couple of questions to wrap up today's lesson. How does knowing what challenges Jesus experienced help us with our challenges? So something to think about. If you want some time to think, go ahead and pause. But I know for me, I'll answer this one. Knowing that somebody's experienced what I went through helps me talk to them or ask them for help because they understand. If they've never known what it's like to be sad before, it's harder to help someone who's sad if you've never been sad yourself. But Jesus was sad, right? So next question. So the next time you face challenges, whom can you turn to? Well, I think a lot of you will say Jesus right away. Obviously, you can always turn to a friend or a parent or a teacher or somebody that's willing to listen. But always remember, Jesus is there. Remember, we're going to go back to one of my favorite church words, omnipresent. He's everywhere all the time. He's God. So he can be with you wherever you are. So he's always, there's one person who's always on the list of people that can help you, and that's Jesus, because he's always with you. Don't forget that. So how will following Jesus' example of how to live affect the way you treat others? That's an interesting question. I think for me, if you see somebody that went through the same things you did, yet didn't sin, that's kind of the standard of what we should do to others. So let's think about it. When Jesus was being crucified, people lied about him, they beat him, they called him names, all things that he didn't deserve. He deserved none of that. Yet he took all of it because he loved them. And that's a very, very powerful, very difficult example to follow through. But remember, Jesus was fully human and experienced all the same things just like us. So let's sum this thing up. Jesus, both fully human and fully God. When he chose to become human, he did not stop becoming God. And when he was human, he experienced all the hard things just like we do. But the difference is Jesus never sinned. Now, because of his love, Jesus chose to limit his powers as God so he could become a human. And when he took that punishment for our sin on the cross, we get his righteousness credited to our account, right? We can feel comfort knowing that Jesus went through the same struggles just like us, and he's here to help. So that's a great thought to end on. Next time you're in trouble, remember, Jesus has been there too, and you can always ask him for help.